Hey there! Figure today might be a good time as any to point out some of the things that America could learn from its polite little neighbor to the north. I'm not saying that Canada is better, although we do rank significantly higher in the quality of life index, but there are a few things that we do here that Americans seem to think is impossible south of the 49th parallel. For starters, universal healthcare. It's in the news again after several candidates at the Democratic debate mentioned that they would like to not only enact a single-payer healthcare system, but that it should extend to illegal immigrants. Of course, that riled up a lot of people, but what they don't seem to understand is that the Emergency Medical and Treatment Labor Act makes it a federal crime to deny someone emergency healthcare. So when it comes to an ER visit, you're already paying for illegal immigrants. They're undocumented, so there's no way to collect. So if you're already paying for them, you might as well extend it. Sure, universal healthcare might cost you a bit more in tax depending on whose plan you go with, but if you follow Canada's model, it isn't that bad. In fact, in most cases, you'd be saving a lot in the long run, especially if you don't have insurance through your employer. In Canada, nobody has to pay an arm and a leg to cover a broken hand, and our medicine is cheaper too. Canada pays less than America for healthcare both per capita and as a percent of the GDP. So it's not even like it's cheaper doing it your way. It just funnels more money to corporations that benefit from you being ill, and they take the opportunity to gouge the hell out of you while you're desperate. Now, wait times are a thing in Canada, but the severity of your ailment bumps you up in the priority list. If you're just walking into the clinic without an appointment to get your runny nose checked out, yeah, you might have to wait a few hours. But if you go to your own family doctor and make an appointment, that's usually not an issue. And if you need urgent care, they're not just going to let you die in the waiting room. Now, if you need a specialist or some exotic treatment, it might take a little longer. But that's true anywhere. It really depends on where you are in Canada, how high the demand is for your particular treatment, and how many of the specialists in that field are available. People like Joe Rogan like to spout out anecdotes about people who live in Canada who need to travel to the United States for treatments. But he doesn't mention the fact that Americans do the same thing coming here. It all depends if your country or my country happens to have the most specialists for the specific ailment you're dealing with. All in all, I think you're better off waiting a few weeks for the expert than dying because you were too financially terrified to see a doctor. Nobody deserves to become destitute because their kid got sick or some shit. And because of that, I think y'all Americans should take a second look at universal healthcare and realize that it's not some far-fetched socialist fantasy. Most of the world has this shit already. You're the ones falling behind. If it's important to the public to have a publicly funded police force and fire department to save people's lives, I don't see why doctors can't be added to that list. You're just being miserly. Next on my list, common sense gun control. It's no coincidence that countries with gun regulation have fewer firearm-related deaths. We have gun control here in Canada. It wasn't a gun ban, nobody came to take our guns. It's simple, straightforward stuff. If you have to get a license to drive a car, why shouldn't you need to do something similar to own a weapon that makes killing people practically effortless? It's not even that hard to get. You just gotta sit through a safety course and take a test. But it's enough to deter criminals and mentally unstable people who don't have their shit together enough to pass a course. And you can get just about any firearm you want in Canada, you just have to get the appropriate level of certification. Just jump through the hoops and it's yours. You can even get a concealed carry permit if you're sly enough, although it's rare. And the effects of these regulations have a rather overt impact. Not only do we have fewer shootings, we have less people walking around armed, which leads to less crimes of passion. You don't see people pulling out guns at Black Friday sales up here like you do down south. And petty criminals have a harder time getting access to firearms. Unless you already know a criminal that can sell you one, the chances of you buying one on the black market or not getting robbed are pretty slim. I mean, if you're buying a gun in a back alley, chances are the guy selling it knows that you have a lot of money on you and you have no gun. Third thing, we apologize in Canada. I've heard a lot of Americans tell me that the general consensus down there is that saying you're sorry is a sign of weakness. I contend it's quite the opposite. The inability to apologize when you're legitimately at fault is a sign of weakness. It takes strength to man up and take responsibility. Weak people avoid it. This would go really far on the world stage if the American government could fess up to all the meddling they've done in global politics and make amends. Canada was ranked number 1 in international surveys on the reputation of nations, narrowly beating out Sweden. But historically, America has always claimed that it's done nothing wrong, and its bad faith dealings are in fact heroics, so your nation is seen as a rogue element. Yeah, we lied about weapons of mass destruction, but Saddam was a bad dude, so it's okay. Shit like that keeps the world on its toes. It's like being trapped in a room with a 300-pound lunatic. It's a shame people like Sam Harris and Christopher Hitchens fell for that old US benevolent policeman propaganda. At best, America is chaotic neutral. And for the record, when a Canadian says sorry, 9 times out of 10 they aren't apologizing. They're simply saying that they are sorry for something that happened to you, not that they're sorry for something they did. And lastly, what the hell is up with your legal drinking age? Why is it that you're not mature enough to consume alcohol, but you're qualified to vote? It's just a nonsensical remnant of your puritanical past. Here in Canada, the legal drinking age is 18 or 19, depending on the province. And we've legalized weed federally. You all need to catch up with us. But your straight-edge prohibitionists are holding you back. If anything, the moral fabric of your society stands to benefit from more peace-loving potheads.